I officially submit the most egregious "that beam should have never hit me" clip. Hey, you know what? Honestly, it's been a long time since we've seen a pretty dangerous death beam, right? And I think this title kind of hypes it up a little bit. Um, yeah, there's definitely some death beam issues, but I think recently it's been manageable. Pretty much everyone is very cautious around zoanthropes, so we know they can hit through walls. So I feel like everyone's guard up is around zoanthropes now. Not to mention, with the recent sniper buffs from the past couple patches, zoanthropes rarely stay in the air for too long. However, for the most part, if you don't have a sniper or tactical or even a heavy on your team, yeah, you could be in a pretty tough situation. But okay. Even with all the nerfs with zoanthropes, obviously death beams are still a huge threat, just, considering how broken they can be. But okay, fine. This guy wants to submit a "that beam should have never hit me" clip, and apparently this is the most egregious. Okay, I'm definitely interested to see what this clip has in store for us. All right, so it looks like this is an assault player with a vanguard and a tactical. That's pretty good. And we see the zoanthrope is obviously stuck somewhere. Oh, come on, man. I mean, okay, look, I get it. That beam shouldn't have hit you, but you didn't do anything. You just kind of looked at the beam come directly at you. See, at this point, like, I get it. It goes through the wall. But is this really the zoanthrope's fault here? That beam should have never hit me. Like, okay, there's a certain point in this clip where it's, like, pretty obvious it's going to hit you. I feel like when it comes to avoiding death beams from zoanthropes, you really need, like, really good walls. And this game actually surprisingly has a wall density issue. Okay, so yeah, obviously right here, this death beam is threatening, 100%. If I see this much death beam, I am dodging. I am moving or doing something. I'm not just looking at it. Okay, so is this the most egregious "that beam should have never hit me" clip? It does clearly go through a wall. It clearly goes through a wall. But the thing is, you see the death beam, so it's like, it's really hard to say that beam should have never hit you when you just sit there and look at it. You just sit there and look at the beam. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Even if he gets the dodge, like gun strike from this, the gun strike is likely not to register, because I doubt the gun strike will go through walls or even like mark him for that. But I mean, yeah, you can still dodge out of the way of this. What is the range of death beams? They're not like too crazy. I feel like this guy could have dodged backwards. Oh nope, he did try to dodge backwards and he got hit. Not too bad damage. But hey, ultimately, there's not really a lot they could do there, dude. You could totally see the shield on the zoanthrope, and he's behind a wall. I will say, you know what this is egregious of? How invincible this zoanthrope is. This zoanthrope cannot be taken out. Wait, where would the other zoanthrope be? Also up there, probably? I don't know. I'm not too sure if this is the most egregious "that beam should have never hit you" clip. I've seen some very dangerous beams before. And ultimately, you definitely could have dodged out of the way of this. And saw it coming if you ever seen a death beam go through a wall before. But I will give you this. This zoanthrope is practically invincible. You are unlikely to take this guy out. He is shielded. He is shielded in a spot that we can't reach. And he's behind a wall. Yeah, just GG's on the zoanthrope. Just move on, essentially. As the official jerk in charge of posting "you were still in line of sight" and "get good," I have determined that this beam should have never hit you. Now, yeah, I mean, look, I think the spawn was worse than the beam. The spawn's literally, like, protected. It's like a protected spawn. And, but, like, anyone who has been hit by a death beam before knows that the death beams, if they look like that, they look like they can hit you. If you see the death beam, it can hit you. You know what I mean? So, sure, in a perfect world, should have this beam worked? Nah, this beam should not have worked. But it did, and not to mention this zoanthrope was also protected by a wall. So, I don't know. Yeah, it shouldn't have worked. It definitely should not have worked. But unfortunately, it does work that way. And yeah, unfortunately, we gotta play around it sometimes. I see your clip and I raise that mine is more egregious. All right, we actually have a challenge to how terrible these death beams can look. Yeah, I guess I'll take a look at this one. This would be an interesting competition of everyone just looking for like terrible death beams that probably shouldn't have hit you, but they do anyway. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, death beams are annoying. They can definitely, throw your runs if you aren't looking out for them. But ultimately, the zoanthropes have been nerfed quite a bit recently. It's still just like the pure jankiness of the game sometimes can put them behind a wall. And honestly, it's not very common, but when that does happen, that is very, very dangerous. So yeah, be careful of zone throps behind walls, man. They can still hit you with their death beams. But all right, let's see this death beam. Let's see if it was worse than what let's see if it was worse than the death beam we just saw. All right, so yeah, we're kind of in a tunnel here. We're definitely in a cave-like area. I think this is Termination, I believe. Oh, wow, wait, wow. Okay, I'll give it to this guy. I didn't even notice the beam hit him until I looked at his health bar. Yeah, it says Zone Throw Ray hitting behind cover. The title says it. Holy cow. Yeah, I'll give it to you. This is rough. You would even guess that this wall would be a good wall, to be honest. That's ugly. That's an ugly one. That's an ugly one. Okay, I will say that what makes this one worse is even the fact that you just couldn't see the beam at all. So yeah, I'll give it to this player. That's terrible. That's terrible. This is one of the clips that get me tilted and just scream for like zone throw nerfs across the board. But I mean, yeah, honestly, yeah, they should be fixed. Seeing a clip like this, yeah, 100% should be fixed. And I definitely feel bad for this player because you can tell as they get hit here, they just don't know. They thought they got hit by something near them. They didn't even, put it together that the zone throw hit them with that beam until after like they looked at it. I bet you after they looked at this clip or something. But yeah, no, wait, actually no, they're hitting the gaunts to try to get contested health back. They might have been able to get contested health back if they had advanced conditioning and just use the plasma against the zone throws. I think that would have been fine. Oh yeah, Gunstrike still doesn't give enough contested health for whatever reason. Honestly, the contested health nerfs are just the most annoying thing. Across the board, any sort of contested health nerf is just very annoying. I can kind of understand for melee because essentially you could just be like invincible as long as you can swing your melee weapon and get like a large amount of contested health back. But this Gunstrike is just, it should have completely refilled his contested health. It's like, what? But okay, yeah, you win. You win. You definitely had a worse death beam. This is terrible. This is terrible. Obviously, the positioning is worse for this one because you can't even see the death beam comes out. This player, like, legit didn't see the death beam. But even off of my, like, instincts of how thick walls can be in this game, I would think this would be a good death beam wall. But it is not. It is not. Oh, just for clarification, sometimes good death beam walls are, like, walls that are, like, for example, the side walls right here in this cave are like good walls. They're walls that are like part of the base of the level, I guess, in a sense. And then there's like these walls, these flimsy walls that are more just, kind of obstructions in a sense. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I could just be crazy about the walls, so I'm gonna stop talking about the walls. But ultimately, yeah, this player wins. This player wins the worst death beam I've ever seen in the game. It's one of those. People love to defend this type of thing, not only in this game, but in a lot of games, by saying just lower the difficulty. What they fail to understand is that a well-balanced game is challenging, a poorly balanced game is difficult. Challenging games force a player to master mechanics and game knowledge, while difficult games have BS and buggy attacks that hit you through walls and have inconsistent hitboxes. This is such an interesting take. Also, by the way, this death beam, the second death beam clip, this is about a 3-month-old clip. I definitely never seen it. I don't think I've seen it. And I feel like a lot of the people who are underneath this comment section, a lot of the comments here aren't very relevant because it's, it's 3 months ago. I do believe the zone throws have been nerfed since then, and then like sniper buffs, something like that. Honestly, 3 months ago, what are we? We're about to be in patch 8, patch 7. Yeah, it is around. It's literally around patch 6 and around the Spore Mine Apocalypse, which is kind of funny. I feel like that was like the peak criticism of the game because it was like Spore Mine Apocalypse, how much you're getting stunned. It was just terrible. It was so. I am not looking back at the Spore Mine Apocalypse as fond as other people. There's genuinely some people who are like, I wish Spore Mine Apocalypse was a mode in a game. Like, I wish we had a Spore Mine Apocalypse mode for operations. Wild. But I mean, all right, this is a wild take because as a balanced game is challenging. I feel like that's kind of an interesting way to look at that. I feel like a balanced game is kind of like normal in a sense. And when it comes to like difficult games, you're basically playing from behind in difficult games. Like, I don't know, like look at Mario Kart for whatever example I should pick that one for. But yeah, it's harder to be in place 16th than it is in place 3, So it's more akin to like the fairness, I feel like, rather than the balance part of it. So their complaint here about like enemies hitting around walls and stuff, I mean, it's valid. It's valid. It's definitely annoying, and some people can call it like janky, BS, buggy attacks. I mean, all of those are correct, but ultimately they're trying to aim for something that isn't fair. And yeah, in that sense, that's where the difficulty comes in. And sure, you're correct to say that it's buggy, janky, or whatever, but I mean, you can't say it's fair. You can't say it's like it's difficult for the bad reasons. I feel like is the most the most I can kind of meet in the middle there. Ultimately, when it comes to difficult games, I understand they are difficult. It's when you jump into games that you don't think should be as difficult, but then like a glitch happens or a bug happens. Like for example, like the Fallout games, you could go through the main campaign, you can bug out the main campaign, you can get locked from the main campaign. That doesn't make it difficult. That doesn't mean the Fallout games are difficult because you have to play around bugs, So I do think there's like a fine line you need to cross, or you need to stay within the expected difficulty of the game. People don't expect things to hit through walls. So, like, I don't get it twisted. I don't want things hitting through walls. That is pretty stupid, ultimately. And I would like to see that stuff fixed. But I do understand where it's like death beams are super insane and powerful just on their own, on paper. And that is through the fact that the devs don't want them to be fair. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's one thing for the death beams that hit through walls. I get that. That's frustrating. That shouldn't happen. But it's another thing to, make sure that zone throps can do back-to-back death beams and put a gun strike in between them, and then you have to time that correctly. That's more in line with what I would consider expected difficulty, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm talking about here, but I thought this was an interesting take, so I definitely had to ramble about it off the top. I never really thought about it that way, though, but it's kind of interesting. But yeah, ultimately, fix the dang death beams, man. They should not be hitting through walls. And yeah, I pretty much broke down why I think a death beam hitting through walls is unexpected difficulty and why it's frustrating to play around. But I will admit, with Saber, I'm more inclined to give them a pass in these situations because they're trying. And they do nerf the things that are pretty BS. Recently, nerfing the Spore Mines, definitely, that's where I was like, that's a good thing, because that means they don't want the game to be BS. Ultimately, but like with things like From Software, where they just get away with like practically unfinished bosses and stuff like that, that's I don't know, that can be a little bit too frustrating, where they kind of like double down on the BS, so yeah, ultimately, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Let me know in the comments if you've seen any BS death beams recently. I will say the winner of this clip was probably the second clip, but this clip was also months ago, where the first death beam clip was recent, just for clarification and for reference. But yeah, regardless, I haven't seen anything that BS in a long time. When it comes to death beams that I come across, most of the time my team does a great job at basically isolating the zone throps and taking them out as quick as possible. However, if they spawn behind a wall, yeah, that's not good. That is not good. If they spawn up behind a wall that they can attack through and also have a shield, it's like, kind of throw your hands up at that one. Yeah, sheesh. I think both clips could be, yeah, I don't know. That first clip is pretty unplayable. And at least the second clip, even though the death beam was worse, you can still play around it because you just pop out and just, get some plasma shots. But yeah, the other zone threat was protected. So I honestly, there's a discussion to be had about which one was more BS. But yeah, regardless, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.